Hello and welcome to Midwest Writers Room. Our mission is to encourage, educate, and celebrate writers of the Midwest. I'm Luella Schmidt.
And I'm Ken Humphrey. Today's chapter break episode features Terri Blair and her latest publication, Psychic Ancestry, a magical link to the past using unconventional methods. This was published in January of 2025.
Terri Blair is a nonfiction writer, artist, amateur genealogist, and business owner. She has over 40 years of psychic training, including studying at the Edgar Cayce Association for Enlightenment and Research, ARE, and with other accomplished teachers of psychic studies and mediumship. She has written feature articles for Psychic News magazine in the UK, The Edge magazine, and posts articles regularly on Substack. Terri lives in Shorewood, Wisconsin with her partner Joe in a lovely 100-year-old home with an urban backyard the neighbors call the farm.
So I want everybody to take note. We're not actually going to ask any questions of Terri because she probably already knows what we're going to ask. We'll just go straight to the answers. Let's take a look at the synopsis of her book. A uniquely thrilling first-person account of what happens when psychic skills and ancestry research merge. Remarkable things begin to occur as ancestor mysteries are uncovered and solved using research and spirit communication. Surprising twists and turns ensue along the way. It begins as Terri steps into a labyrinth and hears a whisper from beyond the grave. Terri's life has been full of paranormal events, and her psychic skills push the boundaries of what's possible in ancestry research. Honest, heartfelt, and inspiring, this tale may spark your interest in discovering your roots and exploring your own psychic potential.
Oh, y'all, this is bound to be a fun one. Hi, Terri. Welcome to Midwest Writers Room. How are you doing today?
Great. Thank you both for having me.
You bet.
Oh, thanks for coming on. So, folks, I'm going to give the warning right up front. Today's conversation may be wide-ranging because this both just pokes at Luella and I and some of our, I guess, hidden interests in the psychic world. So let's start from the top, Terri. How did this story come about?
Well, it's interesting because I never intended to write a book at all. I was working from home during the pandemic, and I was doing some ancestry research, just starting to get into that a little bit. Then I was also, at the same time, starting to learn mediumship. So it came about as I started to use my skills within, and I'll read a little bit when I read the chapter. I'll talk about that a little bit more, but mostly I was learning how to do mediumship, spirit communication, and then also when I was writing the stories and I started to mesh these things together, so many remarkable things started to happen that I started to write them down and journal them. And I actually joined a writers group in Waukesha, which is run by Kathy Giorgio. She's somebody who's a prolific writer here in Wisconsin. And that was helpful to start to form these stories into more of what turned out to be a book. And at the time, I had no idea it was going to be one. So it was very interesting how it kind of unfolded without being intentional.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So my daughter did an ancestry thing, right? This is less about the psychic, more about the ancestry part. But she ran an ancestry check on us a couple years ago, which actually unearthed a half brother on my wife's cousin side that only a few people in the family apparently knew about, and all the rest didn't. And I was like, oh, wow, that's interesting. So I can only imagine when you add a psychic layer to that, it can get even more wild. So, as you're writing this, any huge surprises or revelations that you uncovered?
There was a lot of surprises and a lot of revelations that are in the book. The first one that I uncovered had to do with the parentage of my great grandmother. So, learning that she was raised by people that weren't actually her parents, that was a big deal because that uncovered a whole family line we didn't know we had. And I ended up using some of my mediumship skills to find the name of the father of Annie McIntosh, which is my great grandmother. So that was really interesting. There was one thing after another that happened during this research time. So it was finding not only a pathway to all these people I didn't know existed, but it was also learning about them through psychic skills and them giving me cues and answers that I wouldn't have found any other way. So that was really quite interesting.
So, when you say mediumship skills or psychic skills, can you delve in a little more about that? I mean, what exactly do you mean when you say a mediumship skill?
Yeah, so mediumship is basically connecting with the spirit of somebody who's dead, basically. Um, so I have a long background in this sort of thing. I'm a meditator. I've been doing psychic development for over 40 years. So for me, it wasn't that far of a stretch to be able to think, wait a second, maybe I can connect with an ancestor, using mediumship. So it's been around a long time. It's basically called spiritualism. It's been around for, you know, thousands of years. Most recently, it became a big deal in the United States with the Fox sisters in the 1800s. They were in New York, and they started a spiritualism movement in the United States, and it became very popular for a long time. But it's basically just the process of connecting with a spirit. It sounds easy, but it actually isn't that easy.
Well, there's years of, you said yourself, years of practice that you've done, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I can imagine it'd be difficult. So I'm curious, is there like some sort of feeling, or how do you know when you've actually connected with an ancestor versus, I guess, just sort of thinking yourself into it?
Yeah, that is a really good question, Ken. It's because what I would do and what other spiritualists and mediums do is they ask for evidence from the spirit. So let's say I'm connecting with an uncle. I would ask that uncle, please give me three things that I don't know about you in your life that I have no way of knowing about. And that person would show up in my mind's eye. I didn't see them physically standing in the room, but in a meditative state, they would show up in my mind's eye and they would telepathically tell me, hey, I had this in my house, I lived here. I was 5'8", things I didn't know about them. And then I could later go back and verify these things when I went to look for them. So I knew I was connecting with a person, a real spirit. And they would sometimes show me things visually that I would be able to connect later on. Like I had one ancestor that showed me um, a watch, kind of a shipmate's watch kind of thing. I don't know if I'm saying that right, a captain's watch. And later on, I went on to find that he was a sea captain in Scotland. So little clues like that they would share with me that I would not have known anything about that. So it was very interesting. I don't know if that answers it. Please let me know if that does, or if you want me to expand on that a little bit more.
Not only does that answer it, the hairs on my arms are freaking standing up. I don't know about you, Luella, but that,
Sorry, I don't think it's very scary to me. It's just like, hey, I'm talking to my grandmother,
yeah, I can imagine. Just, I mean, I guess just the trying to imagine what that feeling is like that would come over you when you actually connect and say, oh, okay, there is that piece of evidence that I was looking for. Just trying to put myself in your shoes, and yeah, the hairs kind of rose on my arms. So, I mean, and I know this, theme has been in a lot of horror movies or any and stuff like that. But have you ever connected on that and all of a sudden just felt, oh, something is very, very wrong?
Not really. I in my lifetime, I've had some ghost experiences that didn't feel very good and felt a little off. But as far as connecting with anyone I am related to, I didn't have any bad experiences with that at all. It was all very nice and pleasant, and it was my relatives, so it was pretty cool.
All right. Well, then, speaking of nice and pleasant, maybe let's kind of flip it to the other side and talk about your path to publication, because that quite often is not very nice and pleasant for a lot of people. You said this is your first book, right? What was the publication path like for you?
Well, it was very interesting. I had three contract offers. I had two hybrid and one traditional publisher offer me contracts, but I chose to self-publish. And the reason I did that is for a few reasons, but timing, because the book wouldn't have come out for like a year and a half if I would have gone with a traditional publisher. And I wanted to move it along faster than that. Also, creative freedom to be able to keep my writing style and the way I wanted the book to appear. visually and with my style. So there was some reasons for it. It was a crazy path though. I didn't know what I was doing. So I had to really research, how do you publish a book? And the research was long and very interesting. I had to find someone to do the layout. I tried myself. I think, oh, I can do Microsoft Word. I can do InDesign. No, it was a disaster. So I had so many problems with that and I was going crazy. I remember once I opened up my file in InDesign and overnight the whole file had shifted. Some of the pictures had jumped on top of the copy. And I just thought, oh my God, I spent all these hours doing this and now it's a mess. So I had to search and find someone to do the layout, which was great. I did find someone in California to do it. And it was during the Malibu fires. And I was selfishly worrying that his house was going to burn down and he wasn't going to finish my book. So that was like, but it turned out fine. He finished it and it's great. And it was a very interesting process.
I love the fact that you had all those offers and still chose to do self-publish yourself. And I think that was a really good, I don't know, representation for how a lot of our guests and writers in our community feel. People have sort of a comfort level around that or don't. There's some folks really have a strong opinion on what that, how much independence they want in the publishing process.
Yes, and I didn't know any better, so I just went full on into it. I thought, well, this is what I'm doing. I hope it works out. And it
And
did.
it did, yeah. So, do you have I'm wondering if you want to share any tips with our listeners on how to connect with ancestors intuitively?
So I actually have a article I wrote on Substack, which is free. You can subscribe for free on 5 ways to intuitively connect with your ancestors. And that's a good one to look up if you want to get some information on that. To me, one of the most simple things you can do is go and visit a cemetery. Go and visit where one of your ancestors is. I've done that a couple of times, and it was just so interesting how I felt a connection with these people I'd never met in my lifetime. You could just feel their energy there. And you also, if you do that, you're going to find other graves around their grave of people you probably don't even know existed. So that's one way to do it. You can connect through meditation. You can connect through automatic writing, which I talk about in that article. Um, you can look at a photograph of someone that you've never met and just quiet yourself and see what impressions come to you. Things like that. So there's ways to do it that are very intuitive and they're not that practical, but you will get something if you try it. You'll get something. You
Can you,
should try and see.
can you expound a little bit on what automatic writing is? I mean, what is that?
Yeah, it sounds like it's something that it isn't. Basically, all it is you quieting yourself enough to allow messages to come through into your mind from a spirit or an ancestor, and you're going to write it down. So you would get a sheet of paper, a blank page, and write at the top, I intend to connect with whoever that might be, my great grandmother. Quiet yourself, try and get your mind empty, which is hard to do because our thoughts keep coming in all the time. We have to push them aside. So if you can do that and just start to write, and the hardest thing is not to judge what's coming, just write it down. Even if it seems completely crazy, just write down what you're getting. And if you look at that after you're done writing, maybe you fill a page, maybe you have a paragraph, you'll be pretty amazed at what comes through. It could be an ancestor giving you a message. It could be a spirit guide if you're someone who believes in that. But you will get something that you didn't create. It came from somewhere else. So that's all it is. It's not, I've heard people talk about automatic writing where they think a spirit controls your hand or something like that, and they're pushing the pen around. That is not what it is. It's just a tool. It's a tool to connect with the other side.
I'm absolutely going to try that, Ken. How about you?
Shh, I'm busy automatic writing right now. Don't interrupt me.
Fantastic. Well, all right. We are up to our point where we're going to ask Terri to read a little bit. Um, Maybe before you start, share with our listeners, where in your book you're beginning so that they're oriented, and then take it away whenever you're ready.
Okay, so I'm going to be reading chapter 1 because it's a pretty short overview of the book. So it's Mysteries to Solve. You must write our stories. As I stepped into the labyrinth, my long-dead great-grandmother spoke to me. There was no mistaking the voice in my head as I walked the spiral path. I was attending a creative workshop set high on a hill above the Mississippi River in western Wisconsin one hot summer day. Little did I know I would soon become obsessed with discovering my ancestry. It began when my Aunt Nan, my mom's younger sister, sent me old family photos. I started to wonder about the generations before me. Who were these people? I was especially interested in the Scottish side of my family. Being half Scottish, I love anything to do with Scotland, the beauty of the land, the mystical shape-shifting Kelpie, the tartan plaids of the clans, the castles, and of course the Loch Ness monster, Nessie. My first mystery involved my great-grandmother who spoke to me telepathically that day in the labyrinth. She was Annie McIntosh Cooper. I learned the couple that raised her were not her real parents. Her mother was a servant girl, but who was Annie's father? I felt my ancestors were compelling me to find the truth. With ancestry research, I began to uncover a picture of their lives, but at times I hit roadblocks. I discovered I was a pretty good detective. The more I looked, the more I found. I was completely captivated. Over the course of 2 years, I uncovered many family secrets. One being the identity of Annie's true father, along with a disappearing sea captain descended from pirates and whiskey smugglers, a woman ancestor who died in a poorhouse in Scotland, the mystery of the parentage of my favorite uncle. Another ancestor led me to his land in western Wisconsin and connected me to the 150-year-old spiritualist camp nearby. It took hours of background work, using all kinds of sources to dig up the past of each person. My enthusiasm for learning about my great-grandmother's life is a good example. I struggled to find information and I couldn't let it go. I was at my wit's end when a thought occurred to me. Why not use mediumship and my psychic skills to connect with my ancestors? Maybe they can help. I tried it and many times it worked. I use this often, but only when all other channels failed to give me the answers I sought. Because of this unconventional approach, what started out as ancestor research soon turned into much more. The path to uncover their stories rarely followed a straight line. I found many twists, turns, and surprises along the way. I also came to know that there were more psychics in my family than me, both living and dead. As I told my stories and those of my ancestors, I began to question, did all these things really happen to me and my family? Yes, they did, and they are all true as much as I can know. Memories came flooding back to me along with the newly revealed facts about my living relatives' ghostly experiences. There were many history lessons about the times my ancestors lived in, including social and economic challenges. From 12th century Scotland to the pioneers in America to the present day, the lives of my ancestors came alive in vivid detail. Within their stories, there is heartbreak and deceit, but also love, success, and magic. Among my ancestors were sea captains and pirates, artists, farmers, settlers, enslavers, psychics, Freemasons, clockmakers, factory workers, carpenters, musicians, whiskey barrel makers, inventors, and more. But sadly, no kings or queens. This was also a journey of self-acceptance. The world of the unusual is the psychic world I've always lived in, and it's not easy to share it with others. By combining my stories and research with the active participation of my departed ancestors, a truly fantastic tale has unfolded.
That was fun. That really was a great intro. First of all, I forgot the Loch Ness Monster was called Nessie, which I thought was adorable. I completely forgot that. And pirates and whiskey smugglers and more psychics in your ancestry too. Like, I don't know. That's just really a fun way to kick it off.
It's amazing what you find once you start digging into the past.
I would imagine that is, kind of a familial thing, right? Skills, like, to me, it's like being tall or being a good athlete, right? It just kind of transcends down the family. So having that, I guess, inclination towards that other realm seems like it would just kind of live within the genealogy line anyway. So it's just fascinating to think about. It just keeps going down generation to generation.
So tell folks where they can find their book and where they can find more about you.
My website is terriblairauthor.com. You can find my book on Amazon and barnesandnoble.com and bookshop.org.
Right. And we will post the link for her site down there, because when you schedule your appearances, I'm assuming you list them on your site for people to know about.
Yes. So right now, because I'm doing all my own marketing, being a self-published author, it's kind of I'm slowly getting into putting myself out there to be on podcasts and things of that nature. So I don't have a lot going right now, but I'm definitely working on it.
Yeah, and you're going through what a lot of, especially newer authors, go through when they find out that the marketing aspect is probably just as much, if not more so, of a lift than actually writing a book. I mean, it's a whole different skill set.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Well, then I want to take this time to thank Terri for coming on to the show and introducing us to psychic ancestry. Thanks to everyone out there for hanging out with us in the Midwest Writers Room. I'm Ken Humphrey.
And I'm Luella Schmidt. Words ignite imaginations and spark change. Never underestimate the power of storytelling.
Midwest Writers Room is a production of the Wisconsin Writers Association. Writing and editing by Luella Schmidt and Ken Humphrey. Sound design and editing by Ken Humphrey. Music for the Midwest Writers Room was written by Michael Ramirez C. For more information, please visit wiwrite.org/podcast. Thank you.